every pony. My name is Tartan, and today I am truly privileged to be speaking to Mr. Dave Polsky, one of our favorite writers for My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Mr. Polsky, on behalf of myself and the Grand Brony Gala, I say welcome.
Hi.
It's good to be talking to you, sir. Now, I have just a few questions for you because I know a lot of curious colts and fillies that want to know more about you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready, yes. I'll divulge whatever I can and stop there.
Well, if you don't mind me asking, what got you into writing for My Little Pony?
Well, Megan McCarthy. She was a freelance writer on the show at the time and in season one, and I guess Lauren was looking for more help around the middle of the season, and was looking for names from the writers that she was using, and Megan threw my name in the hat, and I met with Lauren, and it worked out, and so I ended up writing a couple episodes that season.
So have you and Megan known each other long?
We met on a show called Class of 3000. Andre 3000 from Outkast had a cartoon on Cartoon Network, and Megan was, I think that was her first story editing gig, and she was interviewing also mid-season of the first season. She was looking for new writers, and I met with her, and she hired me. So we worked on that show for a season and a half. The show went 2 seasons, and we got to know each other that way.
Well, that's just fantastic, and I'm glad to hear that both of you are still good friends, I'm hoping.
Yes.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm really happy to hear that. And if you don't mind me asking as well, what would you consider your favorite aspect of working on My Little Pony?
Gosh, well, I mean, there's a lot of different facets to it, so I don't know if it's like a whole thing that all fits together. I think that the show itself, the storytelling, I think I like the characters and the storytelling of the show. I like that there's a desire to tell stories with female leads that have a more, not a traditional, it doesn't fit the traditional format of girl cartoon storytelling for this age group. That it's from the very beginning. Lauren has had there's been a mythology to the show. There's been adventure to the show, certainly magic. Certainly, of course, the friendship theme. The whole style of the storytelling that Lauren started at the very beginning, and how it's sort of evolved over time. And that's participating in that and being a part of that has been my favorite thing. But I have to say that I've worked on lots and lots of shows, but the fact that this fandom has built up around the show has made it certainly extra special, extra memorable experience for me that very few other things I've worked on can compare to.
Well, if you don't mind me asking about that, too, what are your thoughts on the Brony phenomenon?
I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful that it certainly helped this show. The fact that so many people have noticed this show and come together around this show, and the fact that what this show is about isn't just there on the screen, but it's actually brought to life in the community of bronies, both men and women who participate, is really gratifying. Whenever I work on something, I think any writer works on something, they want to feel like it's not just about having a career, it's also about making a difference a little bit. It's like, it sounds so pretentious in our business to say you want to make a difference, but it's like, just to our surprise, it seems like this show has made a little bit of a difference, at least in the lives of the people who participate in this fandom. And that's really, you can't beat that. You just can't beat that in this business, to feel like some tangible evidence that what you're doing matters to people. And so, the fact that this fandom just has such a life of its own, just makes that real in a way that it's very few writers in this business have the opportunity to experience. So thank you. I don't know. The thing is that when you write stuff, it's hard to know how it's being received. It's not like theater where you get that immediate feedback. I think it's a little different now. I mean, certainly I worked on South Park. I knew that obviously was a phenomenon as well. I worked on the Scary Movies. That was a phenomenon. But it was, I think it was people enjoyed it on the level of entertainment, or, satire or parody. But that's different than feeling like it's sort of made people's lives better, even if it's just indirectly, because it's given something, it's something that this community can rally around. It's that I think is pretty unique to the show for me. To feeling that it's people's quality of lives have somehow. I mean, I think that would be fair to say that a lot of the Bronies feel like their qualities of lives have improved because of their involvement in the fandom. And as exciting as it's been to work on these other projects, and both in terms of the splash that they made, and also just the experience of working on them creatively, they didn't quite have that angle, and so that's really special with My Little Pony and the Bronies for me.
Building on that, because you've just mentioned two other fandoms that actually have the same demographics. We're talking about college-aged men, usually the frat boy mentality. South Park, I mean, it's a very mental show in its own way, but it's mental in another way, if you know what I mean. Would you say that, in terms of fans and fandom, would you think that really the making a difference has to do with the fact that the people actually want to make a difference? Or is this something that's in every fandom?
I'm not 100% sure I understand the question you're asking precisely. If you're saying that whether the question is if it's sort of a given that if you have a fandom that it's making a difference in people's lives?
Yes, that's roughly what I was saying.
Yeah, that could be. I think that could very well be. It's just that, there just aren't South Park conventions. There aren't scary movie conventions. So I think that's the aspect, the face-to-face interaction, that it's become. I think that is kind of special to this fandom that not many other fandoms have. There's the Star Trek, but there's I don't know how many fandoms where you have conventions. Maybe I'm just ignorant on the fact, but I think that's a real special feature.
I think that you're hitting on a very important point there, sir. Let's turn pages for a little moment. If you don't mind, would you tell me a little bit about your OC? What's your character's story?
Well, the story of how it got made, I did an interview with, I guess, Rommel Pants and Perry Dotto, I think, if I'm pronouncing those names right. And Perry Dotto is the one who was nice enough to make that OC for me. That was a few years ago now, I think. And as far as the story behind it, I don't know. I think she just sort of went with her inspiration based on meeting me over the phone or over Skype, and she sort of dreamed up that particular OC with that particular, sitting like that and writing, and that was all her. So I'm just, I just use it, and I'm lucky to, I just feel I like it, so I like what she did. I could make up a story around it, but it really, I think it would be, you'd have to ask her.
Well, we'll have to do that sometime. But he's a very handsome mug, I'll say that much about him.
Thank you, you're a kind man.
Well, going back a little bit about your career, again, you have mentioned some things already, South Park, Scary Movie. Would you consider them some of the highlights of your career to date? And if not, what would you consider some of the highlights of your career?
Oh, well, those are definitely huge highlights of my career. And I think, there's other things as well. Some of the sketch comedy shows I've worked on, I've really enjoyed. Frank TV and Cedric the Entertainer Presents, largely because of the other writers I got to work with. Those were really terrific rooms, and a lot of the writers have gone on to do wonderful things. And also, I created my own show. I for Disney Channel called The Buzz on Maggie, and that was an amazing experience. Creating it and executive producing it, and working also with tremendous people up and down, throughout the whole production, and just the experience and being able to sort of be in charge of a show. To the degree to which anybody can be in charge of a show, there's usually kind of a beast with a life of their own, but. It was. I learned a lot about what was important to me as a writer when I had that kind of freedom and resources. And I'm happy with how the show turned out, and look forward to doing more of that again someday if I have the good fortune of having my own show again.
Well, I certainly hope it happens for you.
Thank you.
One of the things that you just said, what's important to you as a writer? What would that be?
What's important to me as a writer? Well, I mean, a lot of things. I'm not sure I can reduce it to any one thing. But on any particular project, I think there's certainly goals on a particular project. You want to serve the show. You want to give the show what it needs. If it's a show that you're working on, even if it's a feature, you want to give the story what it needs. But I think the really most important thing is what happens over time for a writer, and that is to develop one's own point of view, one's own voice, one's own sense of what's important. I mean, I have sort of my specific ideas about what's important as a writer. If I had to sort of list those, I could, but it's just going to sound like pretty much any writer. I mean, it's not. I don't know if there's anything special about what's important to me as opposed to other writers. You want to get to know your characters. You want to tell a story that works. I want to have I like to tell a story that has heroics, the 3 H's they say: heroics, humor, and heart. I think that's really important to me. If I guess I had to pick one thing, is to try to create stories that have all 3 of those elements in them, that are true to the characters, that fit the tone of the show. Just doing a good job, I guess. I think is the most important thing. Just doing a good job, and you have to satisfy yourself. You have to satisfy the people who are paying you, and you have to satisfy the people who are watching. So you've got like three major stakeholders: yourself, the people who it's for, and the people who are paying you to do it, and the people you're working with. And it's sort of, I think the most important thing as a writer is to in the business I'm in, I don't know about all writers, but in the business I'm in, is to satisfy all 4 major stakeholders, to be an adept enough at what you do so that you're not just satisfying yourself at the expense of the audience or the expense of the people paying you or the expense of your coworkers and any other arrangement. You want to get it. You want to satisfy all 4 at once, and that's the most important thing in my line of work.
Well, I think you're doing a very good job at that, sir.
Thank you.
Just mentioning My Little Pony alone, you've written some of the most well-beloved episodes that I can think of. Over a Barrel, Keep Calm and Flutter On. So many great ones that I could list that many of my friends and my family talk about very heartily. We all love your episodes.
Thank you very much.
And even though some of our favorites are yours, if you don't mind, what is your favorite episode of My Little Pony?
Well, I think I have. It's kind of a tie between 2. It's Rarity Takes Manhattan and Too Many Pinkie Pies, and For Whom the Sweetie Belle Toils is right up there with those. Just maybe just a hair below, as well as and Equestria Games maybe a hair below that. But those are my 4 favorites.
Well, yeah. They all sound good, but if you don't mind, why are they your favorites?
Different reasons. I think they're all 4 kind of special in different ways to me. One, Too Many Pinkie Pies is just fun. Just that it's. I think it's the funnest and funniest of the ones I've written. Rarity Takes Manhattan, I think, is maybe the most successful story that I've written, because it was, Rarity flirted with being, there was a conflict ultimately in that episode between Rarity and her friends, that Rarity was kind of basically kind of misbehaving with her friends a bit. But the fact that it felt that people understood where she was coming from, why she was acting that way, that they were able to sort of, it seemed like the audience really responded to it, even though it sort of flirted with Rarity maybe not being quite right with her friends. So the fact that we could sort of walk onto that thin ice, and that it seems like it was really well received, makes me feel really good. That it's because that's it's to go into the danger zone and come out unscathed is kind of exhilarating. So that's that one. And then For Whom the Sweetie Belle Toils, it was just the fact that we could get into that whole dream universe and explore that sister relationship made that episode really special for me. And then Equestria Games, the sort of we told a story, I think, that was really specific to Spike, that he was sort of, he's a hero in the Crystal Kingdom, and yet he has his own insecurities. Can he live up to this? Will this hero status can he live in that skin of being a hero? And so that felt like kind of that was special to me, because it was, I think the story we told with him is not a commonly told story, where we kind of dealt with depression a little bit, and self-esteem, and issues that you don't generally get into in a kids show. And so again, felt like we sort of went into the danger zone, and at least from a story point of view, I think people really appreciated it. I think maybe some people were disappointed because they were expecting something different from an Equestria Games episode when the actually games happened, and that's a whole other story, whole other matter. But as far as the story itself, the episode itself, I think I'm really proud of it.
Well, I know that it's one of my personal favorites, so I'm glad that I've had the chance to get your perspective on it.
Well, why is it one of your favorites? What did you like about it? Lay it on me.
Well, it's funny you should say. One of the reasons I did like it is quite simply what you were talking about. So many of the Spike episodes are so focused on him being the sidekick, the underdog, shall you say. One of the things that I liked the most is that it really took Spike and turned him into, ironically enough, a person. It turned him into someone who was not just a sidekick. He was a real character. He had heart. He was upset. It was what you said. He was dealing with self-esteem. He was dealing with making a mistake. And it was just fantastic to truly see the real Spike. And as I said, it's one of my favorites. And I am so honored to get to tell that to the person who wrote it. Just saying. But this isn't my interview. This is about you, Mr. Polsky. Let's turn back to Bronies for just 1 second.
Okay.
You are going to be a guest at the Grand Brony Gala. It's going to be very exciting, and there are many, many Bronies here in the Tampa Bay area that are so excited to see you and meet you, and they're looking forward to seeing you. But what are you looking the most forward to coming to the Grand Brony Gala?
Well, pretty much the same thing, meeting Bronies. I mean, it's meeting people who have watched the show and appreciated it, and it's impacted them in some way. I mean, like I said, I don't write for the theater, so I don't get in all my years in this line of work, it's very rare to have an experience where face to face you meet with somebody who you don't know in any other context, and yet has been impacted in some way by something that I've done, and so it's very rare. So the fact that I'm going to have an opportunity to meet people and hear their responses to the episode. Sometimes it's negative, but largely it's positive. But either way, it's it kind of closes a loop that kind of is sort of left unclosed in almost everything that I do. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is getting a chance to experience that.
Well, I hope you get the chance, sir. And I have a good feeling with all of the people that really want to meet you, you're going to be getting a lot of good feedback. But unfortunately, Mr. Polsky, I think that's about all the time that we have. But on behalf of myself and all the wonderful ponies at the Grand Brony Gala, I have to truly thank you for your time. It has been an honor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate this. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, you can meet Mr. Dave Polsky and many of our other fantastic guests at the Grand Brony Gala, happening July 10th through 12th at the Embassy Suites, USF, near Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida. Looking forward to seeing you there, laddies.